I need to talk about MegaBonk. So, since its release only 2 weeks ago, I'm sure you've seen it absolutely take over the entire internet space, from Steam to streamers on Twitch and YouTube and everything in between. And although I haven't played it myself, it's such little surprise to me, and it's more about what the game represents that made me want to talk about it today. It's not even an original concept. Vampire Survivors really put together all of the elements of MegaBonk just in a 2D sprite-based style only a year ago, and was getting Game of the Year shouts. And in a lot of ways, MegaBonk is kind of a rip-off of that, but I don't really have any qualms with that, because in this industry, it's very hard to be original and innovate. But it's the core tenets of these two games which I'm invested in the most, because I can't think of many other games which have so little player agency. They offer so little in terms of what the player can do, the controls they have, and how they can actually win and have fun in the game. Yet it's completely taken over everyone's minds, hearts, and souls. Pretty much the only controls you have in a game like MegaBonk or Vampire Survivors is where you can move. Your options elsewhere are to do with upgrades and the weapons you can choose, but they are fire on an automatic basis. So it's essentially how long you can survive with the weapons at your disposal without controlling any of them. And that sounds counterintuitive and counterproductive to really a lot of the core principles we've seen in games like sort of over the last 10-15 years. I'm always the person to say that games that offer the most player agency tend to be the funnest. Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the best example of that, a game which uses the D&D rule set, but sort of puts it into the complete sandbox space of a video game, right? And allows you to attack and approach any encounter or opportunity the way you want to. And I've had some incredible moments through those systems and the freedom that it offers. And I would say in a lot of ways, MegaBonk and Vampire Survivors are the antithesis to that, and yet still are incredible in so many different ways. And, in a lot of ways, it kind of adopts a lot of some of the ideas from, MMOs with, flashy damage numbers, visuals, and sound effects, all to, I think, promote this idea, which I believe it was a Skill Up review when he was talking about Vampire Survivors back in the day, is with this idea of these flashy VFX sounds, everything in between, right? It all encompasses this idea of creating these dopamine hits and inducing those endorphins that you would get from something like a casino or loot boxes in days gone by, but without any of the monetary risk and mental strain. So it removes all of the downsides and just provides that that dopamine hit afterwards of seeing all the big numbers on the screen, seeing all the crazy loot and luck you're getting, and everything in between. There's very few games that have even attempted that, let alone actually done it successfully. And MegaBonk is definitely one of them. I mean, if you look at just how it's taken over the streamer sort of market, if you will, I've seen XQC, Summit 1G, all of these guys just completely encapsulated by this game. And I feel like the fact that it's sold over 1 million copies already, which is absolutely unreal, is a testament to that sort of that reaction, right? And I feel in a lot of ways it's kind of an extension of a roguelike genre, which had begun to grow stale over the last 5 to 10 years. So many renditions on top of renditions that we kind of were in the need for something new, and blending it with, ironically, with the ideas of days gone by of these predatory monetization techniques like season passes and more specifically loot boxes. These were concepts in particular which the community shunned and frowned upon. And in a lot of ways, anytime a studio tried to implement them, it got to a point where the consumers and the players would completely shut it down. I think the most infamous example is something like Star Wars Battlefront 2, which, its sort of early stages were completely destroyed by its own community because of their insistence on loot boxes and star cards and being able to upgrade your player and your characters through paying to win through loot boxes. And it's so genius in a lot of ways to take that idea, which is hated by so many, and completely flip it on its head and turn it into something that the players can actually have fun with and enjoy, and it become a core principle and tenet of the game. I think that is phenomenal and deserves all of the respect from everyone. And I believe it's developed by one guy. I could be wrong, but it's what we need more of. I've been planning on doing a video on AAA studios and why they are so afraid to fail. And there's a simple answer and there's a longer answer, and it's one I'll get into later on, in my next video or two. But I think this is the antithesis to that, of independent developers striving to make something that at the bottom line, which I think every game should be, is damn fun to play. And I think that's exactly what MegaBonk and games like Vampire Survivors strive to be. Thank you so much for watching, listening to me waffle, ramble about everything, games, this industry that we love and adore so much. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. Anything else you want me to talk about, in the comments below. Thank you so much again, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, people.